Welcome to another edition of Dan Frequently Asked Questions. In this edition, we're going to be discussing Polycythaemia Rubra Vera and its implications in diving. Keep watching. We had a question from a diver saying that they're suffering from a condition called polycythemia, which is lots of cells, rubra, red, vera, very red cells that are multiplied. And what this condition entails is an overgrowth of the tissue producing red blood cells in the bone marrow. It is, in a sense, a form of malignancy, although it is a benign malignancy. It is not a malignancy in the true sense of the word, although it is an uncontrolled multiplication of red cell producing precursor cells, as we call them. And in the process, it does two things. Firstly, it of course loads the blood with a lot of red blood cells, and secondly, it also displaces the other forms of blood cells that are formed in the bone marrow, like white blood cells and blood platelets. So on the one hand, you've got an overproduction of red blood cells, and you may have a suppression of white blood cells and blood platelets. Let's look at the overproduction of the red blood cells first. The concern that we have there is a condition that could be called hemoconcentration. In other words, you simply have more red cells than would normally be in blood. Why is this relevant? Because if there's an accumulation of red blood cells in the circulation, they would predispose to sludging and ultimately clotting of blood vessels, which clearly is something that is undesirable and is also something that you would want to avoid in relation to diving conditions, bubble formation, dehydration, which would exacerbate the potential impact that it would have. And of course, it may even reduce gas removal from the body and predispose to decompression illness. And if bubbling were to occur, one has all the complications of the interaction with cells. Now, this is usually managed by regular blood transfusions, or not transfusions, donations, in the purpose being to really eliminate the excess red blood cells from the system, which may to some extent eliminate the red blood cell accumulation, but it may not necessarily affect the reduction of white cell and platelet formation. So the important thing would therefore be to see whether one has a standard or steady way with a regimen of treatment together with surveillance of the various blood components to see whether it's normal enough for a person to continue diving. If that's the case, then under certain conditions, diving may be continued. And we know of some divers that do continue, but it depends very much on how controlled the condition is. There are a variety of treatments that are used. Some are more compatible with diving than others, and I can't get into the details here, but those would be addressed usually by someone who is a hematologist or an oncologist. In other words, a blood specialist or a malignancy or growth specialist. And they would be able to give you some recommendations, and those can be discussed with a diving medical practitioner. And if you do get reports, then you can actually send them to us, and we can maybe assist with interpretations or assist with referral to an appropriate practitioner. Thank you very much for the question, and I hope that you get a good report from those who are examining your condition, and that you would be able to continue diving, but please make sure that it's safe for you to do so. And that needs to be individualized. So until next time, all of you, safe diving.